Hello and welcome to another edition of 67 Hail Hail. And we've got Asim here on for the reaction to the first game of Celtic 22-23. Asim, how are you feeling tonight?
Yeah, great, great to be back on, John. Hi, everyone. I feel it's been a long summer, so long overdue. It's what we've all been waiting for. But that's enough about the Downing Street resignations. We've got some Celtic chat to be getting on with.
Yeah, forget until all that. We could be here all night.
After,
So we'll stick to the football. Um, Interesting game today. Not competitive in the slightest, I would
yeah,
suggest. I don't think it was ever going to be. I wasn't
no.
expecting a tough test from Wiener Viktoria. Celtic ran out 7-0 winners, Assam. Not too shabby. What were your takeaways from the game? With the caveat that the way it wasn't too competitive, the result
Yeah.
means nothing, and it probably tells us little about the Celtic season ahead.
Yeah, I think I always kind of approach pre-season with that kind of view that I don't get too excited with big wins or I remember Tony Mowbray's Wembley Cup win and how excited I got that season, and we all know how that turned out. And then we've had last season getting beat 6-2 off West Ham, and you're like dreading what's to come. So I never read too much into results and even performances. I think at times I think it is just about getting fitness and getting getting the new players some action or younger players and things like that. But I think you just seen the difference between, the kind of outlook this season compared to last season. I was looking at the lineups that we had last year. I know obviously today was pretty much a fringe squad, but even just the sprinkling of first team players that we had there today and then what we've got still to come. So when I seen the lineup, I was looking forward to still seeing the likes of Bosun Lowell. I hope I pronounced that right. And obviously the new boy Bernabe and Idiguchi as well. So it was good to see the likes of them. And then obviously some of the younger guys that came on in the second half as well. So I thought the way we started the game was brilliant in terms of the intensity. Like you mentioned, the standard of opposition, granted, wasn't up against much, but I think it's easy sometimes to get bogged down to that kind of, pre-season mode and walking pace. And if you know it's quite an easy game, and it was just very encouraging just to hear how the level of intensity we started at. I think you mentioned it in one of your tweets about Joe Hart's shouting from the back. I don't know if it was him. I couldn't make out who was shouting the two touch because it
I've got
was
some notes on that. We'll get into that in a
yeah
minute. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think for anyone who didn't see the game, I know not everyone watches the preseason game, so they could be coming to this a little bit late. For anyone who missed the match, Celtic won 7-0 on the evening. Scorers: Johnny Kenny got 2 goals, Rio Hatate got a goal, Mikey Johnston got a goal, James Forrest got a goal, Chris Julian got a goal, controversially perhaps stealing it off of
yeah
Johnny Kenny for his hat trick. And then there was 6-0 by halftime in the second half. Raft the changes, you know how these games go. But Rocco Vata, son of 90s icon Rudy, scored his first goal in a senior Celtic shirt, albeit in not competitive action, but nice composed finish from him. So there was goals flying in that first half, but as you say, the level of competition, you can't read too much into some of the phases in play. I think what you're touching on there is kind of what I'm taking away from it, in the sense that it was interesting for me to hear the interactions between the
yeah
coaching staff and the players. Some of the players between themselves. I think I could hear like 4 distinct voices, especially in that first half. I think there was Joe Hart, who was really vocal, marshalling that defensive line, getting them to move the ball quickly. I heard Harry Kewell a lot, who was the quieter of the 2 Australian voices, I was just,
yeah
although still loud. Another one really trying to hammer home that two-touch thing from very early on. You had John Kennedy, who was more positive and reinforcing perhaps some of the younger players and some of the better attacking play. And then Andrew himself was just barking orders throughout, very much the loudest man when he did have
yeah
something to say. I don't know if you've been keeping track of the training videos, Asim, but also interesting for me that much of the start of that game was almost an extension of what they've been working on in these videos in terms of the two touches,
two
in terms
touch
of
yeah.
Joe Hart releasing the ball quickly.
Yeah, I have. I think that's a new kind of nice feature, the unfiltered videos that we've been seeing, and like you. I found the first half tonight just so interesting when the commentators when weren't speaking and you could actually hear just how loud Joe Hart is. I think that's brilliant because I think we all got that from last season, how much of a kind of leader and how vocal he is. But to hear it firsthand, obviously when there's not much crowd, you can just see he's like an extension of the manager on the pitch in terms of its constant instructions, constant praise, just letting everyone know how we're wanting to play under Ange. And yeah, I think that's the thing with how last season went. We're just obviously we're also excited to see if there's going to be any tweaks and how there might be some kind of changes this season, because we all know he's unwavering in the style, but I don't think that's to say that he's not got different things up his sleeve. He'll have different challenges, and I think part of that might be this kind of insistence on less touches on the ball and just moving it a lot
Mhm.
quicker. We'll come up against a lot of low blocks again, where teams will sit in and try and frustrate, and I think speed of movement and speed of play is something that we'll probably be working on with this group of players now in pre-season, which obviously last season we didn't have the benefit of. And I think that's what I'm really excited to see, how much of a difference we'll see very early on, because of the fact that we've got quite a clear, structured group of players settled in now, and we've not got qualifiers to worry about.
It really does feel like we're ready to go this season.
Yeah,
A long way to go in pre-season. The test will be tougher. I mean, immediately Rapid Vienna the weekend will be much
yeah,
tougher than today. Um, But I agree, it's good seeing some of the movements. I thought Bernabé, coming into the team was kind of talked through the initial stages of the match by Ange, which was interesting. A lot of Berna go, Berna
yeah,
go, when he was trying to move him into that kind of inverted role, which was a very obvious inverted role. So
yeah,
obviously that was never going to change. But Bernabé's fitting in straight away there, trying to link the play. Thought he looked sharp. Also
yeah,
interesting to know, and I think a couple of the South American experts said this after he signed, but interesting to note that he was on set pieces tonight, on the
yeah,
corners, on a couple of the attacking set pieces. Didn't really come off for him, but he
yeah.
could be a set piece taker going forward this season.
Yeah, and one of the other points I remember one of the experts made to Hamish was the best way to describe him was a left-sided Juranovic, and I can
Mm,
see that. I can
yeah,
see that because he just looks so comfortable on the ball with the ball at his feet and kind of linking the play up. Like you said, Andrew's maybe coaching him initially with that kind of inverted role, but I don't think that'll be a problem. It looks like it's something that'll come easy to him. And what, I put a tweet out as well that I do feel like I can. You just sometimes you get a quick feel for a player, and I just feel like he will be. He looks tricky on the ball as well, and I think that's something that Greg Taylor had a great season, but I think that's something that obviously is not one of his strengths, is kind of trickery on the ball, which I think Bernabé, and watching his highlight reel, and even just tonight, you can see that he's got a bit of pace and he can beat a man as well. So I'm excited to see how he kind of slots into that team.
yeah. I mean, me too. I mean, it's hard to make too many judgments, but I agree. It's just like he's just sharp with the ball at his feet, sharp
Yeah,
shifting the ball out with his feet, sharp immediately got his head up looking for
yeah,
a way to link the ball, which is what you want from that style of player. Yeah, so as I say, 6-0 by halftime, game over. I think the word of the day, and I know the commentator said it about a million times, so I don't want to go over too much old ground, but the word of the day was definitely intensity. I mean, they
yeah,
really just didn't let off in that first half in particular, which I joked, is always bad news if you're a team that can be described as
yeah,
regional, because Celtic are just going to really get at you and never let up. But it's good to see that intensity right from the off. I think, I mean, obviously, we're always going to see that. But it really feels like Celtic are getting stuck into this week. I know they've been doing double sessions in the lead up to this game, be double sessions for the international players again in the second half of this week, I'm presuming, ahead of Rapid Vienna. So it really feels like we're getting our teeth into all this.
yeah. I would agree with that, John. It's the best I've felt going into a season for a long time. I know that might be easy to say on the back of obviously the highs of last season, but even if you look at when we won under Rodgers in the Invincible season, I didn't feel we really pushed on from that. In terms of going into the second season, and then definitely going into his third. I just feel like the Champions League thing is massive. I don't know, is it the first time in over a decade, obviously, that we don't have any qualifiers?
Yeah.
But I just think the whole atmosphere around the clubs, when you're settled and you've got a settled group of players, you've got a manager that's now into his second season. We've heard so many of the experts on Ange say that usually it's his second season when things really, get as good as we're hoping for. So the fact that we've already had such a good season under him, and you can only see things getting better. I think that's also been a reason why we've been able to get players in we get business done quite quickly, because we know what we can offer them. The players know what they're coming into. We've got that Champions League football guaranteed. So I just think the lack of qualifiers is made for this summer being such a feel good and relaxed summer. Whereas I know in previous years I always find this kind of stage quite stressful, because I always feel we're underprepared. You're always going into
Mm.
these qualifiers so soon. So you're watching these preseason games with a much more negative slant and looking right. Okay, we're weak there and we're weak there. How are we going to fix that? And you end up going into these games with Beaton at centre half or James Forrest up front. So I think we're just in such a good place, and that's why also when you watch these kind of training ground videos and just everything that's coming out of the club and some of the senior players, it just sounds so positive. It just sounds so they're so determined that okay, last season was great, but we don't stop as as the famous phrase is now. But I just can't see it. I can't see it with this group. I just think they are so determined and driven, and all the signs lead to a really exciting season.
I agree. I mean, I'm glad that we've both got us in the final of the Champions League based on the 7-0 win over Wiener Viktoria. And that's how I'm feeling. In all seriousness, I agree. There's plenty to be hopeful with. There's nothing wrong with being excited.
Yeah.
Not specifically because of this game, but just in
No,
general.
just in general.
I
Yeah.
I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think 3 players completed the full 90, which was Ideguchi, Bosun Lawal, and Urigidi, I think.
Yeah, he sorted in.
I think those 3 played the full 90 minutes. Want to give special mention to Ideguchi because I thought he was great. Like, I know, again, level of opposition, etc., but he looked really focused and really intent on driving that game in a lot of ways, both defensively and offensively. He was really on both sides of the ball. And we've not seen much of him. It's been difficult for him. He had that injury against Alloa. A lot of I think Ange kind of took him out a bit towards the end of last season because listening to the way Ange spoke last season, he really wanted a core group of committed players who were pushing for the title. And I think he maybe just felt like it was a bit too soon for Ideguchi to put him in that environment. But I'm feeling pretty good about him going into this new season. I know Ange spoke, towards the end of last season that Ideguchi would have a more prominent role going into the season. And you can kind of see that based in the back of that, just in terms of how busy he was. I mean, he really looks like he wants to impress. He didn't look like he was going through the motions, which you maybe say that about Albin Ayeti, who came off the bench. But what was your thoughts on Ideguchi today, and what do you think of him going into the season?
Yeah. No, I agree. The thing with Ange is he never says anything without meaning, and I think it was quite telling that he did bring up Ideguchi quite a few times in the close season about how he sees him as someone who's actually going to be pushing for that first team, and he's not just like the way he would sometimes talk about other players in the squad. It was different. I felt there was an element of obviously that injury set him back. I think against Alloa, he might have featured a bit more. But because of how tight things were going into the tail end of the season, I think Ange took that decision obviously just to ease him back in, and to the fact he got the full 90 tonight. And I agree with you, he's never going to be that kind of spectacular type of player in that role. I think he's just very busy, but it keeps the ball moving, which is so important again, and given the style of football we play and the amount of kind of attacking prowess we have, we need someone that can move that ball quickly from that kind of deeper lying position. And I think in the bits I've seen of him last season as well, he's not scared to get stuck in. He's got a bit of aggression about him, which again is suited to the domestic side of things in Scotland. So no, I would agree. I know we've been talking a lot in the summer, and I've seen the video with yourself and Stevie the other day that it is an area that obviously as fans and in general it looks like the club, given the links we've had, is we are looking for that kind of player to come in and compete with Callum, and a bit more of a kind of enforcer type of player. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops and whether he is someone that will be used more in the start of the season.
Good, a couple of the youngsters too. I mean, I thought, again, qualifying with a standard opposition, but Bosun Lawal didn't look out of place for me. Again, looked very comfortable on the ball, which is big for me, and looks strong as well. I know he's kind of garnered a fair bit of hype from the B team. I would suggest, certainly, if you speak to people like Lewis Laird, he would point out that Lawal was one of the more consistent players across the season. So I was happy to see him involved, and I would prefer to see him get more opportunities this preseason than Julian. Julian was fine today, but I think given the fact he was literally in Germany last week having signing talks with another team, I think we can determine that he probably doesn't have much of a future at Celtic. I mean, there's no guarantee that he leaves, but just based on the fact that Celtic were happy to let him go to Germany, talk with the team, it would suggest that if another team comes in for him, he could be away again. So I'd quite like to see Lawal get more opportunities. Thought he was good today. A few other youngsters today. Rocco Vata again took his goal well. Ben Summers came on into the midfield. Josh Dede on the right flank. He only signed professional terms a few months ago, only kicked in days ago. He's only 16. And another one for me, like if you're involved in this group when you're just 16, I think it says a lot about the way the club views you as a potential talent moving forward. What were your thoughts on just some of the youngsters in general today?
Yeah, yeah, like yourself, Bosun Lowell. I think he's one of the ones that I'd heard quite a bit about last season. Didn't get a chance to see much of the B team, but a couple of bits that I did, he always kind of stood out, and from people I've spoke to, and I thought again you could see that today. He looks very comfortable in the ball. He's got that kind of physique and presence, which I like in a centre half. So I would like to see more of him as well. With regards to Julian, stranger things have happened. You never know. Sometimes these
Yeah,
things work in a certain way, and then they just get a new lease of life, and the manager has a taken to him again, and he starts playing. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but yeah, if you're heading out to Germany, it looks like is it was all set to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does leave. I thought Rocco Vata was quite impressive from the youngsters in the second half. Again, he's another one who had a bit of hype last season, and I thought he was really impressive. Owen Moffat, I thought again looked lively when he came on, and you seen him. He featured quite a bit at the starter last season as well in pre-season. Then he featured a wee bit as well during the season. I think he played in. He came on in the cup final, was it? So yeah, I agree. Just even having these guys involved in the setup and the kind of standard of players that they'll be training alongside and learning from, I think it stands us in good stead. So I thought, yeah, Urigide did well as well. Again, I know
yeah.
he's had a tough
Talk
time
talk
of it.
about aggression. I thought he was pretty aggressive,
Yeah,
in a good way, with some of
yeah,
his tackles. I mean, he doesn't hold back that kid,
yeah.
does he?
And I remember that in the Betis game as well. I thought that was one
Mhm.
of the things that stood out when he got his chance there. So yeah, potentially could see more of him. Liam Shaw came on. I don't know what our plans are with him. Obviously, I don't think he had a great time of things at Motherwell.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's another one that you might see go on loan again potentially. Yes, we've got a lot of options now as well. So it's about getting these guys game time and seeing their development grow.
So I've been throwing up some comments there from some of the viewers. Again, just a lot of what people are thinking kind of reflect what we're thinking, it seems. Darth Listless in here, I agree. This was just an extended, unfiltered video. Looked sharp all round. Joe Hart really kept the team pushing. I mean, that is really my takeaway. It seemed like, I know, not to be harsh on the team, but they do play in the Austrian lower leagues. But it genuinely did feel like an extended training session from
Yeah.
what we've seen in these unfiltered videos over the last 10 days or so, and which is good. It's good. I mean, as I've noted, the intensity is going to ramp up as preseason progresses. No, none of the international players playing today. Do you think they'll come in on the weekend, or do you think we'll wait until Banica Strava next week?
I think he'll throw in a few of them. The ones that have maybe had more of a break. I think likes of McGregor and that probably still not. But the ones that have had a wee bit of a longer break, and I think he might throw a few of them in, and then just kind of gradually ease them back in as the week goes on. So the Banik game is that next Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. So it's Rapid Vienna, Banica
Rapid,
Strava, Blackburn Rovers,
Blackburn, and then
and
Norwich, is
then
it?
Legia Warsaw midweek, and then
And
Norwich
then
City back in
yeah,
Glasgow, and then the next
yeah.
week after that is the competitive action
I
straight away.
know it's
So we're just getting started, but things will wrap up quickly. A question here from Wing Dog 1888: Did Dane Murray travel to Austria? I also think Liam Shaw was good today. Dane Murray's injured. He picked up an injury early in the year, so that's why he's not involved. I think he is pretty highly rated in the Celtic setup, but unfortunately, is carrying an injury at the moment. So yeah, looking at Asim, you were our roving reporter on Friday when we sent you to the Jota press conference. What was your experience of that day? What was the vibe in the room? It looked like a bit of a laugh. Jota looked in good humour. The people there looked in good humour. Good feelings at Celtic Park when he was being unveiled.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience, John. I kind of really enjoyed it. It's something that I remember when I was younger. Like, if it wasn't going to be making it, I used to always be like, I would like to be a journalist, mainly for that kind of thing. And you'd just be like, you'd dream of just kind of interviewing Celtic players or being involved in that kind of thing. And there you are. So it's something I would never take for granted. Like, obviously, great thanks to you guys for giving me that opportunity to go. But at the end of the day, I'm just a fan who I remember when I was younger, that's it's stuff like walking down the tunnel and getting a photo call with one of Celtic's best players. It's it was just such a great experience, and you're right. The atmosphere was really good. It was good to meet all the other kind of guys in real life as well from fan media. A lot of the other guys that put in such great work as well, and it was nice to see all them. The atmosphere was laid back. Jota's a good one because he's very personable. He's got a nice
Mhm.
personality about him. He's quite jovial, and he gives you good answers. So there's some good content on the back of the mainstream media, and then of course obviously the fan media as well. Everyone got a chance to ask a question each. So no, definitely. It's like I remember even just as we came out, you've got like as we were coming out the stadium, there was like a group of kids and their dad, and they're like, "Oh, is that Jota in there? Is he going to come out?" And they're sitting, so excited waiting for him to come out, and you're like, that was me when I was younger, like waiting to kind of see Larson and things, and it's that kind of feeling of being like a kid again, and that'll never go. That's I'll never take that for granted. That I'm getting to sit in a press conference with a Celtic player and getting to ask him a question. So very grateful for that, and it's testament to obviously Celtic for allowing fan media and obviously the hard work that the guys like yourself and Hamish and all the other fan media channels do, that we've got this opportunity to do that again this season. But yeah, it was a good experience. Jota's, like I mentioned, he's great to chat to, and he seems like he's hungry and happy and content, which is all we could ask for. Obviously, at the end of last season we were all wondering, will he, won't he? But he seems like he's very happy with that decision.
Yeah, him and Carter Vickers both seem pretty happy with it a lot at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it is like being 7 years old and seeing a player, or just like Stevie Bujuranovic on the last day of the season.
Yeah,
So, in all seriousness, I mean, I think these events are good. It's difficult at the moment, just the fan media scene in general, because things are going so well at Celtic. You can only really ask pretty positive questions, because
yeah.
I feel like personally there's not too much to criticize about the club, at the
At the
moment,
moment, yeah,
especially at an event like that. You're not going to ask Jota. There's no real difficult question to ask him. So I understand why. I've seen some chat around like the fan media events, like what is the value of them, what are they offering.
yeah,
I get that. I think stuff like this will grow and grow, and allied with the mainstream stuff, it will grow and grow. I think maybe when it'll start to come into its own is when we do have to ask tough questions, and perhaps
yeah,
ask questions that perhaps other people might not want to ask, or ask questions that other supporters might want us to ask. So that's all to come down the line, I suppose. There will be periods when things aren't going so well at Celtic.
yeah.
So that's important to keep in mind. But it's great at this moment, because the big theme this year or over the last 12 months has been about unity. I think it's good to get supporters in the room with the players, get supporters on the side of the pitch, and just kind of share it all in. It was very, it looked like a very jovial atmosphere, and that
You
was
also
good.
get the feeling that the players and even Ange from content I've seen warm to the fan media
Mhm,
naturally.
mhm,
They're a lot more open with their answers and communications, and obviously they don't feel like the media are out to try and like we're not out to trip them up the way you
mhm.
might get some questions from mainstream media. So I do think it's good to see that side of it. Like you said, things are all like everything's in a good place at the moment. So the test of it would be if it was a tougher period of time, but thankfully, like you said, since last season, it's all been pretty positive since Angus came in, and long may that continue. But I think it's great. I think it's a great feature that's been involved since last season, and hopefully it'll continue for more.
In terms of other news, there's not really much going on at the moment. I think things have kind of settled down on the transfer front. I was kind of writing on the website the other day about how, if you think about it, they might want to move Julian and Ayeti on before committing long term deals to another defender and striker, which leaves the midfield area as the only one key position that we really need to strengthen at the moment. And I know there's a lot of chat around Vinicius Souza about whether
Yeah.
he's, what Celtic's intentions are for him, whether he's going to PSV, whether he's going to Spain. That one's looking a bit more distant at the moment, but we've not really been linked with another name. And the main event right now is this preseason business. How
Hmm.
you just quickly before we go, how are you feeling about the direction Celtic are taking this summer in the transfer front? Like those, I know you've not been on the channel since we
Yeah.
completed all those deals. Are you anxious about getting another couple of players in quickly, or are you happy with just letting everything breathe a little bit now?
I think I alluded to it earlier. It is the most relaxed I've been in a long time, mainly because we don't have your biggest game of the season as a qualifier straight away. And I think that does make a big difference. And I think in terms of problematic areas for me, not problematic, but it was left back was one of the main issues I wanted us to strengthen. The other areas I do feel like we could do with bulking up as well in terms of that midfield, and for me maybe another a winger, right winger potentially. But I think we've done the main business that we wanted to early doors, which was securing Carter Vickers, securing Jota. We've got the left back in. I think we've got a very able deputy in goals in Ben Siegrist as well. So I'm very happy with the business we've done so far. In terms of, I don't think there's an urgency to get other deals in, and I think that's probably what Ange's. I think our number one target does seem to be Sousa in terms of that position. And it is a case of we're probably just giving him a bit of time, and if it doesn't, we'll move on to other targets. Um, there is obviously a lot of competition for his signature, so it's one that we're probably willing to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think eventually, I think we need 3 or 4 more players just to
Yeah,
really push the squad into a place where we can be as competitive as possible in this Champions League, because
yeah,
I think that's just going to be really difficult regardless of how many players we sign this summer. But I think if you add 3 or 4 players of quality, I think it will raise the standards of everyone and we'll
yeah.
be good to go. But it
And the
all
thing as
starts with
well,
days like today. All starts with
yeah,
days like today.
I think obviously we know that this season the kind of structure of it's going to be a bit different as well in terms of how packed the schedule will be. So we've got such a busy period going into the World Cup, and you've seen last season how quickly injuries can pile up. So as much as on paper right now it looks like okay we're pretty healthy, I think as you've alluded to there, 3 or 4 more signings, another striker, a kind of another winger for me, defensive mid, and potentially a centre back as well, and that just gives you good options in every position. That even should we get a couple of injuries, you're not worried again. I don't want to be in a situation where you've got Gigi and Kyogo out again. You're having to maybe move Abada or Maeda out, and then you're having to jig the winger positions. You just want to be in a settled position everywhere, and we've got Champions League and domestic football to juggle. So I think it's a test, but it's an exciting test, and I do feel we will get the business done. I don't. It's not one of those where I'm like panicking and thinking, oh no, we're going to go in unprepared again. I do feel that things have taken a turn in this last year and how we've done business, and you can see that again with how early we've acted this time. So I'm as relaxed as I've been in a long time in terms of that.
Here's one last comment from the chat to really get the comment section talking. Mazar Yusuf, regular viewer of the channel, says, just a nice feeling knowing that the vast majority of our signings are in well before the first league game. 2 or 3 more quality signings and we'll look good for the quadruple. Oh dear. That's how the hype starts on day one of
Yeah,
preseason, Asim. I mean, I think today, as we've said, extension of the training game, good confidence builder is what I say. I meant to say that earlier. Good confidence builder for Johnny Kenny, who had injury problems when he
all
first
right,
came
yeah.
into Celtic in January. Good confidence building for Mikey Johnston, who's been through a hell of a time at Celtic as well. So that's
Do
important
you
to a
do you
bit of
see
confidence.
a future for Mikey? I
It's a difficult one. I think. I mean, I would like. I've never been. I've always felt people have been a little bit too harsh with Mikey Johnston. I think he's had a lot of injury problems, and
yeah,
that's played a big factor in his lack of development. I mean, being brutally honest, I'm not sure. He would need to prove it in league
yeah,
games for me. Like, he needs to prove it in competitive action. But as I said, today's a confidence builder towards that. Got a
yeah,
feeling that Ange likes him a wee bit, so we'll see how that
yeah,
goes. I certainly don't think he's near the level of Jota, and he's not near the level of
yeah,
Maeda as well. So it's a difficult one, but hopefully, you never know. I think everyone
yeah,
always gets the chance under Ange, which is what they want.
yeah.
Well, I think that's it. I don't know if you saw Sunday's show, but it was a technological disaster of many proportions. I think today's gone a little bit smoother, thank goodness, despite the fact that I've had COVID this whole time. So we'll not, until I cough up the microphone, we'll leave it at the half-hour mark and say goodbye. On the channel update, Hamish has been on holidays. As many people know, he's back to normal on Friday, I believe. He's got one more day of holiday and then he's back on Friday. So if you're really craving a bit of Hamish chat, then that'll come on Friday. And I'm sure we'll see you back over the summer, Assam, not just on these kind of shows, but back at the stadium when the action starts there too.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It feels like it's been a long break, doesn't it? Obviously, just with the season kind of finishing earlier and the lack of Champions League qualifiers and things, it feels like it's been a long break. So, I think tonight just get everyone's appetite back, just seeing the hoops again, and hopefully more to come in the coming weeks.
Yep. I'm sure we'll have some sort of live reaction after the Rapid Vienna game on Saturday as well. That one probably looks like it'll be myself and Hamish, me not hosting anymore. But thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us throughout Hamish's holiday. And we'll see you when we see you. Thanks very much. Bye.
See ya.